Welcome back. Thanks for joining me again on this fool's journey. In the second video from my series on learning the Tarot Tableau method, we'll cover step 1 of my method using a reading that I recently did for a querent who agreed to help me with the series. Before we begin, I want to remind you that the first video of the series covered the layout and general idea behind my Tarot Tableau reading method, so if you haven't either watched it or read that section of my book, you should definitely do that before jumping into step 1. As I said in the last video, the Tarot Tableau is great for general readings, but you can also use it for specific situations. In this case, the querent, we'll call her Q, has a very specific situation. Not long ago, Q was starting to enjoy a romantic relationship with a childhood friend, but then COVID hit and forced social distancing along with some necessary separation. Now she wants to know what's going on with the relationship because the man has grown more distant than social distancing might require. What makes things more complicated is that this man is in an open marriage and he has children living at home with him. Q isn't sure whether she should continue to pursue the relationship or even wait for things to change, so she has turned to me for guidance. Now, some of you might find this an ethically dicey start to the series, but I don't think that it's the tarot reader's responsibility, or their right, to tell a querent like Q whether she should continue to pursue this relationship. What the tarot reader using my Tarot Tableau system can do is help Q see the bigger picture. How does this situation play into this moment in her life journey? With the tableau, we can also give Q details about the situation that can help her make her own decision, but that's part of a later step. With that caveat out of the way, let's get to it. After proper shuffling and intention setting, we deal the 22 major arcana into the 22 major houses, and then we jump into it with step 1. Here's Q's spread. Wow, look at all those majors. Just kidding, it's an all majors spread. But if you're not used to working with only majors, the first few tableaux can feel intense, and you may get an immediate impression about the situation. You may feel as if there's a lot of positive or negative energy in the reading. While that could be your intuition giving you an initial impression, it could also be your own personal relationship to the majors or to the question. Remember, all 22 of the majors are in front of you, so it's not as if seeing the Devil or the Empress is meaningful. After all, the Devil and Empress will be in any standard Tarot Tableau reading. Your intuition is powerful, so I want to encourage you to note any immediate impressions that you get. It could be a meaningful insight, but then I want you to set it to one side as you go through the steps of this method. Afterwards, you can see if that message is confirmed for you, or if it might have been a message for you about your relationship to certain majors rather than anything for the querent. Now back to our querent Q and her tableau. Here you see the 22 major arcana dealt into the 22 major houses. First we have Judgment in the house of the Fool, the High Priestess in the house of the Magician, and so on until we get to the Magician in the house of the World. Our first step is to get a sense of the arc of Q's journey. What can this reading tell us about this moment or situation in Q's life? To answer that, we look at the cards in the house of the Fool, position 0, and the house of the World, position 21, as well as where the Fool and the World have been dealt. Judgment is in the house of the Fool, and the Magician is in the house of the World. The Tarot Tableau uses keywords to help focus a reading with so many cards. We can see that the starting point for this phase of Q's recent journey comes with the energy of Judgment. Thinking in terms of keywords, this suggests a wake-up call. Q may have already received this wake-up call. Perhaps an uncomfortable feeling inside her prompted her to question this relationship, and that, subtle as it was her wake-up call. Or this tarot reading itself might be the wake-up call that kicks off this new part of her journey. Remember that this is our first pass through the cards and their positions, so be loose with your keywords at first. For another querent, Judgment in the house of the Fool could mean something completely different, such as a spiritual epiphany, or even something mundane, like a music concert. Intuition will certainly be important for determining what exactly this card means, but if you don't have a strong impression of the card's meaning, you can always revisit it after you've gone through some of the later steps. I encourage you to move forward and backward through the steps as needed. The transition point for this phase of Q's journey, where things will either end to make way for a new experience or take a significant turn, is the Magician in the house of the World. The energy of this card suggests individuality, and the Magician with his raised hand seems to cry, "Look at me!" It's likely that Q has not been putting herself and her own needs first in this situation. Instead, she probably has been trying to figure out where she stands in relationship to a man with a lot of competing interests. Taken together, we can say that this current situation is a wake-up call that leads to needing Q to put herself first. That's the high-level view of the arc of Q's journey. In addition to that, we look to where Q is now and what part of her could be woken up by this wake-up call, and for that we turn to the Fool and the World cards. The Fool is in the house of the Empress, which suggests that Q's focus should be on the realm of the Empress. Creativity, femininity, productivity, motherhood, and wifeliness, among other things. This is an area where an overlapping approach to the steps will help hone the focus when it gets too broad. But given the context of the querent situation and other aspects of the spread, motherhood and wifeliness seem the most relevant. Now that Q's love interest is, presumably, at home more with his wife and kids to avoid getting the household sick, there's a natural tendency to try to bring control into the situation and to make sure that family, however that's defined, is protected. This is where intuition can come into play. I don't know these things to be true, but it helps to make sense of what it means for Q to need to focus on motherhood and wifeliness. In short, this relationship comes with some strings attached. Because we have the arc from Judgment to the Magician, showing a wake-up call to find oneself, the Fool's placement suggests that Q should be thinking about herself in this role as Empress, as mother and wife. Is that really what she wants from this relationship? This forced pause and distancing is giving her the opportunity to figure that out for herself, and, if desired, show this man that she does want to play that role. And if it's not what she wants, then it's really good to know that. With the World in the house of the Hermit, this is an opportunity for Q to develop her ability to guide herself based on what she truly wants and what really matters to her. Thinking again about the arc from Judgment to the Magician, this is an opportunity to continue to wake up parts of herself that have been led or defined by others. It's time for her to define her own needs and wants. As you can see from just these 4 cards and the 3 simple sentences we can read in those cards, Q's situation is part of something bigger. Yes, she's invested in the relationship with this man, and she'll get information about the relationship in other parts of the reading. That'll help her decide what to do next. But we can already see the potential of this moment to involve so much more than just one relationship. Whether Q chooses to work harder to maintain the relationship or move on, and whether she wants to be a mother and wife for this man or to anyone, this is an opportunity for her to get in touch with the way she identifies herself and the things that really matter to her, in a relationship and in life. And with that, we've completed step 1 of the Tarot Tableau. We looked at just 4 cards in 4 of the major houses, and we read 3 ideas from them. The actual reading of these cards, as opposed to the teaching process in this video, takes about a minute, maybe 3, so it's quick and to the point. Yet the way that the cards and ideas overlap and speak both to each other and to the situation mean that you can read something much more complex in them if you and the querent want to make the time to do so. Thanks for joining me again. We'll dive a little deeper into the broad journey of the Tarot Tableau with step 2, the heart of the tableau, which I cover in the next video with a different querent and a different reading. Because of that, you'll get to see a new step 1, but without all of the hand-holding. You can think of it as extra practice. See you then!